Miss Hall.
I'm Miss Nelson.
And today we're talking about dependent and independent probability. And the definition of dependent probability is when two events are said to be dependent, the probability of one event occurring influences the likelihood of the other event. It's just one of those days. I know, right? So, the probability, so dependent, the probability of one event occurring influences the likelihood of the other event occurring. So, what does that mean? Well, if you draw a marble out of the bag, do not replace it and then draw another. So that's why the first event affects the second event, because we start out with 8 marbles, we draw a marble out, we do not replace it, we no longer have 8 marbles, now we only have 7 marbles. So the first event depends on the second event. Okay, so we have our bag, we have our marbles in it, and we're going to do a solid and a white. So we have solids are the dark ones. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 solids. We know 4 over 8. So 1/2 of the marbles in that bag are solid. So I'm going to do 1/2 there. Now, we do not replace it. You need to know that. And so now, instead of 8 marbles, we only have 7 marbles in there. And we have 1, 2, 3 white. So we have 3 over 7. Now, when you have probability, sometimes you're going to multiply them together, sometimes you're going to add them together, the two fractions. And the way you need to know this is if it is and this is really important, you're going to multiply, and if it is or, you're going to add. So keep that in mind when you're solving probability problems. So and if you notice here it says and then draw another one. So that means and we're going to multiply. So 1 times 3, 3, 2 times 7, 14. We cannot simplify that. So, and the way you read fractions and probability is you know that every 14 tries, in theory, 3 times you would draw a solid and then a white. So now we're going to do our striped and our white, and I'm just going to come over here so I have a little bit more room. And so striped, we only have 1 stripe. 1 out of 8 of those marbles are striped. And then, we still have our and, so we're going to multiply. White, we have 3, but now we only have 7 total marbles. Multiply across, 3 over 56. I cannot simplify that. So we have 3 out of 56 probability of drawing a stripe then a white. So now we have a solid and a solid. So solid, we have 1/2, remember, 4 out of 8 of them, so we have 1/2. But we don't know if we got a solid that first time. So we're still going to say it's 1/2.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. 4 out of 7. Remember, we kept it, but we don't know if it's a solid or not. We're going to multiply, and that is 4 out of 14. We can simplify that to 2. We divide both of those by 2. 2 out of 7. So now we have our white and our white. And we have white, we have 3 out of 8. And there again, we don't know if we drew a white, so we're going to hang on to it. And we're going to do 3. However, we do know we kept that marble, so we have 3 out of 7. And so that is 3 times 3 is 9. 8 times 7 is 56. We can simplify that by 3. 9 divided by 3 is 3. 56 divided by 3 is,
I don't think it
oh, it doesn't go in there.
No, it doesn't go in
It
there.
does it. Can we simplify? Is there anything else, Miss Nelson, that
Nope.
goes in there? I thought for sure 3 went.
9, because 9 won't go into
9 won't.
56 though.
Well,
Nope.
we're simplified. We're done. 9 out of 56. Now, you need to look at this. We've already talked about this. But this is where it says if it's and, you multiply.
Okay, so now we're doing our independent probability. So independent is when two events are said to be independent of each other, which means that the probability that one event occurs in no way affects the probability of the other. So it does not affect the other. So independent in no way affects the probability of the other. That means I can do one and it has no relationship to what I'm going to do on my second time. So we still have our bag of marbles. It says if you draw one marble, replace it. So again, I'm replacing it, so my second draw is not affected. And then draw another. What is the probability of getting a solid and a white? Okay, so this is the same bag as above. So we know my solids was the 4 out of 8, which was the 1/2. So my solid is 1/2. And from up here means multiply. And a white is going to be 3 out of, now this time it's 8 because I drew the first marble and then I put it back. So that gives me 1 times 3 is 3. 2 times 8 is 16, and 3 and 16 do not have anything in common. So I'm going to come down here. So my second is a stripe. Striped is 1 out of 8. And I want a white. White was 3 out of 8. So that gives me a probability of 3 out of 64 times I will draw a striped and then a white marble. 3 and 64 do not have anything in common, so that's going to be our final answer. Okay, our second scenario, we're going to have some coins. Coins and number dice or number cubes are very common in probability. Obviously, a coin, you have heads and tails. And on a number, roll a die. On a number cube, it has 1 through 6. Unless you were specifically told that it is a special type of die, you know that it's going to have a 1 through 6 on the side. So, probability of getting a heads. Well, there's only 1 out of the 2 possible choices. One of them is heads. Times. And getting a 1. Well, I only have 1 out of 6 possible outcomes. So when I multiply my fractions, 1 times 1 is 1. 2 times 6 is 12. So my overall probability of getting a heads and a 1 on a number die is 1 over 12. So I'm going to bring my tails and evens down here. So tails, same thing as my heads. We have a half chance of getting it. And an even. If we count our evens, that's 2, 4, and 6. So that is 3 out of the 6, which we know simplifies to 1/2. So when I multiply 1/2 times 1/2, I get 1/4 as my final answer. And our last one, I have a heads and a number less than 3, so heads is still 1/2. My number less than 3, so this is important. You have to ask yourself, is 3 included? Well, 3 is not less than 3, so therefore it's not included. So I'm only talking about the numbers 1 and 2. So that is 2 numbers out of the 6, which simplifies to a 1/3. So I'm actually going to be multiplying 1/2 times 1/3, and I get an answer of 1/6 as a fraction. So you have a possibility of 1 out of 6 chances of flipping a coin and getting heads and rolling a number cube and getting a number that is less than 3. So make sure if you have any questions, you come tomorrow prepared and ready to ask them so that we can make sure you have a good understanding about this.
Bye.
Okay.
Where is our recording?
Down here.